First off, thank you so much for doing a Spooning Meeples video every week while I was sick dealing with my sinus and like throat crap. The surgery was a success, and while I still have like some stuff that's gonna take like months to heal, that's awesome, I feel much better. And probably the best part of this entire experience is that I now have a legit excuse to just eat as much ice cream and popsicles as I want while it heals. So worth it. What does this all mean for Spooning Meeples? Well, it means that we should be back to our regularly scheduled programming basically now, which is what this video is, I guess, about. If you hear background noise during this video, it's because Ichi wants to play. Now that I'm back, I want to talk about one of the things that I struggled the most with while I was sick, and that would be talking. Turns out when your adenoids are swollen and infected, talking is actually really not awesome. So for the most part, I kept quiet. Shocking, I know, right? So yeah, and not using my voice and not talking meant that my gaming really suffered. Like I wasn't able to interact with my friends, and I wasn't able to play as much as I wanted to, and I mean also I like felt sick, so that kind of sucked. But mostly like I couldn't even really play like easy games because just talking. This got me to thinking though. I'm not the first gamer to game without a voice. I mean, what about all those users that are mute or deaf or hard of hearing or that just don't like to talk? How do they game? Well, I went to Twitter to find out, and I ran into, well, as much as you can run into on Twitter, but I ran into Adam from Chip Theory Games, and Adam agreed to do an interview with me today. Hi, Adam!
Thank you for having me. For the purposes of this interview, I should probably let all of our viewers know that I am deaf. I was born deaf, and through many years of speech therapy and lip reading, I sit before you able to communicate somewhat well. And also, I am fluent in ASL.
I think you communicate really well, especially considering we're doing a video interview right now. Okay, so you mostly speak in your day-to-day life. So this probably means that the issues that you face while gaming are different than what I face while gaming. But I'm still curious, what kinds of games do people with speech or hearing disabilities find easier to play?
Obviously, being deaf does tend to present us challenges through board games. I tend to shy away from about half the board games out there, and I play the other half with relative confidence. Games that are easiest for me to play are very visual games, strategy games, thinking games. I mean, the classic chess. There's actually a significant list of games I could just list that are relatively easy, not a whole lot of communication. Even games like poker, you wouldn't think so, but deaf people are very visual type of people, and we like to look at the facial expressions, and we can kind of figure out tells and that kind of thing. It's kind of a neat thing. But yeah, as far as rules go, you know, the simpler the game may be better, but not necessarily. I would say for me, I don't like to have any gray area in the rules. I don't like rules that are open for interpretation. I'm a very black and white person, and that's kind of actually how I grew to be who I am now, and I very much love to write rulebooks. So I'm the rulebook writer for Chip Theory Games. But I just love to just take current rulebooks and kind of modify them and make them more ironclad or more thorough, or maybe put a different spin on them. I've played tons of games in which I've just put a little twist of my own in them. Not necessarily improved them, but I certainly got my practice from writing and editing rulebooks throughout the years. So visual, strategy, thinking games are probably the easiest for me to play.
Visual, strategy, thinking games, so like Euros and stuff that doesn't have a lot of player interaction. That makes sense, actually. No player interaction means less communication, which means less of an issue if you have somebody that's playing that's deaf or hard of hearing. Okay, so what about the other half of the games that you talked about? What kind of games are difficult for people that are deaf or hard of hearing to play?
So of course there's the flip side. I mentioned the half of the games that I tend to shy away from. Those tend to be more the party games, the games that require a high level of communication, listening, talking, interaction. I tend to just stay away from those. It's not to say I don't play them. It depends on who I've got as my group. If they're very willing to accommodate or work with me. For example, Trivial Pursuit, even something as simple as just reading a question, I have to ask for the card to read it, as long as the audience doesn't moan and groan every time I ask for that. You know, most of the people I play with tend to be very easygoing, so it still makes it fun. I still tend to shy away from those kinds of games. Other games, speed games. You wouldn't think so, but there's a lot of card games that require a lot of slapping, a lot of moving around. I'm not sure what it is about those. Maybe it's just me personally, but I think as I grew up, even though English was my primary language, the reading and writing skills weren't quite on par with the rest of the people. I think that may be fair to say, but I just, even though I'm a very visual person, I guess the speed games don't seem to be very natural for me, for whatever reason. And even some of the games that require just a little bit of communication, I'll use Settlers, for example. I've played thousands of games of Settlers. I love the game, but you wouldn't think so, but there's a trading aspect of the game that requires me to ask wood for sheep, or anything like that. If somebody else wants to look for a trade, if they're not used to playing with me, they may overlook me, or they may not trade with me. Even the nicer groups that I play with, they will do a quick trade and I won't see or hear what they traded, so I will already not have tracked the resources in their hands. And I say, what was that trade? And they'll say, I'm not telling you. So I quit Settlers. It's a great game, but just that communication aspect of it just felt like it put me at just a slight disadvantage. And so I stopped playing. But great game.
I actually never thought of Settlers of Catan and the trades that don't interact with me directly as a player. Now that you mention it, I never thought about not being able to hear the other interactions of the players around me and what kind of advantage I get naturally just by picking up side conversations that I might not even be paying attention to begin with. Information about what resources they have in the cards, what actions they want to take next turn, or things that they're upset or disappointed that I did. I can definitely see how a game like Settlers could become a lot more difficult and that you would feel slightly disadvantaged, and other players that are deaf or hard of hearing would feel a disadvantage not hearing that kind of interaction around the table, even for games not like Settlers of Catan. Okay, so with all of this in mind, what kind of things would you recommend for designers and publishers to take into consideration while designing games to make games easier for people with deaf or hard of hearing disabilities to enjoy their games as well?
I think that when designing a game, don't spend too much time or attention on focusing on the ability of the disabled people to be able to play after you created your core game. Just maybe when you're putting the finishing touches on the games, it's important to be aware of some of the obvious things. I know for my game, Marcus, when we were creating our chip component and it has some text on it, we actually chose to go with a type of chip that had a higher res image so that the text could be more legible, and we wanted to have the text as large as possible. Choice of color was very important in having the text color over a color background and having the light dark or the dark light contrast, and just all the common sense stuff I assume would be easier for basically people who wear glasses or have some sort of sight disability. We also created our chip color components with color blindedness in mind. For all 5 of our components, they're actually, they do look different for a colorblind person, so that's something to keep in mind as well. With regards to maybe people with a hearing disability, I would say a lot of it is the communication. Obviously, if your game, if at its core there's a communication aspect to it, that's fine, don't change it. Just know that the deaf, hard of hearing may shy away from it. We already do anyways. But if you really want to reach out or be more accommodating to us, some of the communication, like for example Settlers again, the trading, the wood for sheep, and the people who are trading, I can still speak up and say, what was that? What did you say? And they will repeat it for me, and all of a sudden the issue is solved. So those types of communication, like trading, obviously there's no way to get around that. But other games like charades and whatnot, for a game that requires blurting out answers and maybe me to listen, currently what I would do is probably appoint someone to listen for me, or I would change the rules in that maybe I had 20 seconds to act out each segment, and then at the end of it all, I got to take guesses or answers for each of the skits that I did, and maybe that came up with a number, and the highest number produced a winner, rather than how many can you get in under a minute. We would just say, well, how many did you get in a minute when doing each segment 10 seconds? So did you get 6 out of 6, or was it 5 out of 6? So that kind of thing. Nowadays with Kickstarter and all the board games that are coming out, I'm seeing a lot of creative ways that people are doing in creating alternative endings to games, maybe alternative ways to win, like the one I just explained with charades. So I commend that. I think that I like where the board game industry is headed, and I think that for the most part people are very aware. It's just very important to just be thinking about those things. One thing that I might suggest is if you have a disabled friend, or if you meet a stranger and you want to really know what are the challenges these people pose, whether it's a blind or deaf or other, give them the game, present the game, have them play the game, and just observe or ask questions on what were the challenges. You'll quickly learn that there's more things to be aware of than you think. And I think that it is a tremendous learning aspect if you present your game to someone who is deaf or hard of hearing, or colorblind, or blind, legally blind. So anyways, that's my advice.
I think that's great advice. I think that's great advice. When people try to design a game, they should try and get that game in front of as many people as they can to gauge reactions and personal interests, and that includes players that might have disabilities. I think this is something that was probably overlooked before, but now with the internet enabling designers and their audience to play games together, designers are finding that their games are probably more inclusive than they thought with certain audiences. Thank you so much, Adam. There's a very excited dog down there, so as long as I keep waving this around, she won't make noise. But thank you so much, Adam, for agreeing to chat with me today. You've opened up my mind to looking at how we communicate during games, even just beyond my personal voice issue, and I thank you for that.
Thank you again for the interview. It was a pleasure. Adam Carlson from Chip Theory Games from Minnesota says adieu and go Twins. Wait, the Twins aren't in the World Series? Well, I'm going to root for my division. Go Kansas City Royals.
If you'd like to see similar videos like this, maybe answering questions that you wonder about in the gaming community, leave a comment down below and we'll try our best to find people that we can interview and discuss these topics. Otherwise, Brandon, I will see you next week. I think we might be doing a Halloween special thing or something, I don't know. But I will see you next week, and I'm gonna go play with a very attention-starved corgi now. You gonna jump? Can you jump this high? I don't think you can jump this high.